So first off, everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is the Veeam user group New York City web event where Kevin Allen and I was asked by the community folks at Veeam to sort of kickstart this program again. I've been the Veeam user group leader for the New York City region for the past 4 years or so. And something happened a few years ago where we had to stop all in-person events. I don't remember what it was, but it basically forced the program to have to stop for a little bit. And this is what we're doing to actually kick things off again. Now, I don't live full-time in New York City anymore. So I've got my good friend Kevin Allen here, who currently does live in New York City, and he's going to be taking over the program and being the primary force there. But I'm going to be hopefully attending some of these or most of these events in the very near future that we're going to be having, and we'll sort of get into that. So first off, again, my name is Brad Jervis. I'm the Veeam user group leader for New York City. I'm also a Veeam Vanguard, and I'm a product architect at ThinkOn. And Kevin, I believe you are here, so why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, buddy?
Hello, Kevin. I am CEO and founder of ProBats.
Awesome. All right, so let's kick this off. And again, I want to keep this, basically, we're going to do a quick review of what the Veeam user group is. And then we're going to actually get into our presentation where we're going to talk about some of the quote unquote hidden features in Veeam version 12. Now, a lot of this stuff, especially I know there's a bunch of you folks on here that are also Veeam Vanguards and folks at Veeam. So you're going to say these aren't really hidden, but it's stuff that Kevin and I really talked about, and we said, there's a lot of this stuff people don't really know about, and especially if you've been a Veeam user for a long time and you just press that upgrade button, you might not actually know that it exists. So we wanted this to be something where folks that use Veeam or have used Veeam for a while, some of the things that we found that are actually pretty cool. And there are some things that are you wouldn't normally see, and I've actually referenced some blog posts from some of the other Vanguards as well. And then we're going to do a quick Q&A session. And, normally these sessions would be in person and we'd all be meeting up somewhere in Midtown Manhattan and we'd do a toast. So obviously that can't happen. But once we get together for the next physical event, there will be an actual physical toast. But I know it's a bit early over in the US right now. So, toast your coffee or whatever, but we'll just have a nice little toast at the end of it and just say cheers to starting up this wonderful program again. It's something that's been near and dear to my heart. I've very much enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to the team. I want to give a big shout out to both Sophia and also Madalena from the Veeam side for really kickstarting the program this year. It's only been in the last few months that we've actually started talking about doing this again and getting things going, and both of you guys have been absolutely phenomenal, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we can make this the program that it used to be prior to the incident back in 2020 where everyone had to stay home. So first off, Veeam user groups. Again, it's been a while. We're so happy to start doing this again. It's something, again, like I said, near and dear to my heart, and I'm really looking forward to meeting everyone back in person again, even though I can see in the chat some of you I know for a fact are not actually in New York City, but maybe you'll find it relevant to come fly out to New York and hang out for us when we do this in person. But yes, these used to be in person. We wanted to kickstart this event. We were talking with the community team and said, let's do something virtual first. Let's sort of get everyone back together. And let's see how many people are going to be attending. And after that, then we'll start scheduling something for in person. So I've gotten the go ahead from Madalena to say that our first in-person event is likely going to be in Q1 of next year. So keep an eye out on the Veeam community forums and everything for that event. Obviously, we'll be blasting out the information from both the Veeam side, and Kevin and I will be blasting out the information from our Twitters and LinkedIn's and everything like that. So keep an eye out. We'll have some more information on that shortly. Nothing is 100% yet, but we're very excited about it. Veeam does have an in-person event. If any of you are on the West Coast, I don't know if it's 100% scheduled yet, but there is a Veeam user group in Los Angeles, I want to say, that's coming up shortly. And then we're hoping to have New York City be the next live in-person event. And, we'll just keep the momentum from there. Previously, we did these every 6 months or so. So we're hoping to probably stick to that schedule, but depending on how much people enjoy it and everything else, we might either increase that or make it more every 3 months or every 9 months or something like that. So the big part about this, and one of the main pushes for getting this going, is the community-driven aspect of Veeam. So Veeam has done a lot of work to make this a community-driven product. When I first started using Veeam, I think there was a total of maybe 3 products that it had under its belt, maybe even less than that. And now I want to say there's 12 or something. I should probably know that, but it's really grown into such a huge ecosystem to where there's so much you can do with it. And there's so much complexity and freedom, and with that freedom comes complexity rather. And there's really a good opportunity for us as a community, for myself and Kevin, who are Veeam experts, and also I see there's some other vanguards on this call, to really go in and help someone maybe who's new to Veeam, or maybe you've entered a role where now you have to manage Veeam, just to help understand exactly what's available and what you can do. So that's why Veeam is really focused on the community aspect of it. And that's where folks like me, who have spent many, many years, and Kevin, dealing with Veeam, where we can come in and we can help you with some of these things that may seem complex. But once you really dig under the surface, it's okay, here's the best practice, here's how you do it. And you can start taking advantage of some of these wonderful features that, in my opinion, aren't really used as much as they should be. So next, participation. How can you participate in this community? Well, there's the Veeam Vanguard R&D forum. I'm sorry, not Veeam Vanguard, but there's the Veeam R&D forums that you can log into. And this is more for technical issues. How do I solve this? Or maybe reporting something, a feature request, a bug, and you can go in. And these forums are great because it gives you access to Veeam product managers, architects, developers. All of these guys routinely visit these forums. I myself have reported many bugs and have seen next patch, okay, the bug is fixed directly because of it. And that's one of the best parts about Veeam, is that I don't know of another tech company where you can go in and just talk to literally the solution architect that's managing a product and say, hey, this isn't working. And they say, oh yeah, we tested this in the lab. Yeah, that's right, it's a bug, we'll fix it. There's always going to be bugs in software, but having that start of ability to connect to the community and the product team itself is really just incredible. There's also the Veeam community forums, and this is more a community-driven site. So less technical bugs, feature requests, things of that nature, but just working with the community. There's a bunch of folks who are called Veeam Legends who regularly visit this community site, and they actually get encouraged to actually be on this site and help folks who might be new, who have some questions. How does this work? Things of that nature. And that's also a great site to be on as well. Really, it's all about the community-driven stuff, and the more you participate, the better off it is for everyone involved in the community, and that's what we're really trying to drive home here. So what's next? Like I said, we're really hoping to make these events in person again, and we'll have some news likely in the next few months about when that next event is going to be. Again, most likely Q1 of next year, and it'll be somewhere in New York City. We'll have some conversation afterwards for those of you who are local to New York to see where this is best. Typically, we've done it somewhere around Midtown Manhattan, just because it's very easy for everyone to get to from New Jersey, outer boroughs, and everything like that. So I'm assuming it's going to be somewhere like that, but more than happy to hear any input from anyone who might be local and says, yeah, this would be great, this would be a good spot to have it, whatever it might be. We're very much open to making this a community-driven program and encouraging participation of everyone involved. Awesome, so let's get into it, and I'm going to mostly be talking. Kevin, feel free to jump in at any time, but we're talking about the hidden features of Veeam version 12. So again, hidden is in quotes because obviously, a lot of this stuff is being emphasized by Veeam, but again, it's just stuff that we really said, this is a cool thing that not many people might actually know about. So we really wanted to talk about some of this. Now, this first one, I would say that this is the least quote unquote hidden feature, but I couldn't help but mention it. So the object storage support, right? So Veeam really added a bunch of features around object storage. And again, I'm going to go through this very quick because this is what they've really been promoting. So I'm assuming most people know about this, but it allows you to store the data in the object storage as the first landing zone of a scale-up backup repo. This comes in handy, especially when you're someone who's looking at investing in local object storage. There's a number of different providers out there, Object First, Cloudian, I believe, is one as well. So basically, Object used to be mostly just AWS S3, Azure Blob, whatever. But now, because it's moved more to local, where you have that performance, it makes sense to make that your primary landing zone. So they've allowed that flexibility to be able to use it in that case. There's also the use case of allowing users to just back up directly to one of the cloud object storage providers out there. There's some folks who say, I don't need a local backup. That's not part of my backup plan. It's obviously not recommended as part of the typical 3-2-1 strategy, but there are those use cases out there where folks do want to just back up directly to the cloud. So this enables that functionality as well when you're using the scale-up backup repository. Outside of the scale backup repository, you also get the ability just to have those backup copy jobs directly to the object repository itself, and also backup jobs. So again, you don't need to take advantage of the full scale-out backup repository itself. You can just go directly to that object repository, just like you could to a NAS, to an SMB share, to anything else that you might have done with previous versions of Veeam. So with that, again, not going to spend too much time on it because I think Veeam has spent a lot of time on it already. But one of the things, and this is especially for those folks who might have upgraded from Veeam or upgraded from a previous version of Veeam, is you might not know, but Veeam no longer has the default database as Microsoft SQL Express. They've migrated to Postgres, which has a number of additional features and functionality that you can take advantage of, but not the least is you don't have to use Microsoft SQL Express anymore. It removes all those performance limitations of it, and for those of you, especially with larger Veeam instances, you might notice some lagginess or anything, and even in some cases where you reach the total size of the SQL Express database, you might have to actually upgrade to SQL Standard. You no longer have to worry about that because Postgres SQL doesn't have those limitations. I put in here maybe a sign of things to come. I am just going to be speculating. This is not coming from Veeam at all. It's just my theory, but this might be something where Veeam has started to move more things towards the Linux direction, and this might be another step in moving most of the Veeam stack to a Linux or even a virtual appliance or something like that. Again, not anything that is coming from Veeam. It's just purely my speculation. Anyone from Veeam would say that's probably not going to happen, but in my mind, that might actually be what's going on. But with that, you also get the Postgres Explorer, so you can back up other Postgres databases and restore individual items to it, everything like that. Awesome. So new security features. So these are things that I would say you need to take advantage of as soon as possible. It seems like every day I'm hearing more and more stuff from customers, partners, random people on Reddit, on the internet, where ransomware is really just taking over. And you really want to make sure that you do everything you possibly can to prevent any kind of ransomware at your company or at your, any of your clients. For those of you who might work in the MSP space or have additional clients that take advantage of Veeam. But right now, there's multi-factor authentication for a Veeam console. So this, prevents folks from logging in without that MFA key. But what's especially important about this is any cloud backups that you have, obviously they're not locally, they're in the cloud. But a lot of ransomware, what they'll do is they'll find your Veeam server and they'll be able to log into it if you don't have MFA enabled and it's using an account that's been compromised. And they can go in and actually delete those cloud backups. So that effectively makes them useless. So by enabling that MFA, it really, really prevents your cloud backups from any kind of attack from that. If you add that extra little layer of defense, it might save you from having that conversation where you say, all my data's gone, and having to have that horrible conversation where you say, do we really have to pay the ransom to get my data back? They may not even, most of the time, they don't even actually get your data back if you pay the ransom. To making the conversation, don't worry, they weren't able to get in the Veeam. All that data is still there. Now, there are a lot of ways that you can add additional protection outside of this, but in my opinion, as a previous security professional, any layer of protection that you can add is just one other thing for the attacker to deal with, and you just want to have as many of those things as possible just to make it so that there's a good chance that if and when you do have to face a ransomware event because of maybe a phishing attack or something, that you're as protected as possible. Also added the ability to have IPv6 only environments. Many attackers only target IPv4 just because still to this day, IPv4 is still the biggest protocol that's being used. In fact, a lot of folks don't use IPv6 yet. To those of you that are on an IPv6 only environment, that's going to be a big benefit to you, and also congratulations. I remember when I first started learning about computer networking, when this was probably about 20 years ago now, IPv6 was just coming out, and I was told within the next 5 years, everything would be switched over to IPv6. And, here we are 20 years later and still mostly IPv4. Yeah, that's all I'll say about that. It also allows GMSA passwordless accounts. So this is a Microsoft technology that's just an additional security layer of preventing any hijacking of system or service accounts on that Veeam server itself. So again, just additional security. That's really the most important thing. Is you want to make sure that both your actual site is protected and as secure as possible, but assume that someone's going to make a mistake and someone's going to get in. So as long as you can make that assumption, just protect yourself and your backups as best as you can, because your backups are going to be your last ditch effort. So it really, really matters to go that extra level to protect your backups as much as you possibly can. Don't assume that your site is secure, even if you've gone through and you have the highest security and the most expensive firewalls and 2 different antiviruses on every machine. Don't actually do that, but just assume that at some point you're going to get compromised, because otherwise you're going to be in for a bad time. All right. So we also have Veeam's best practice analyzer, and this is actually a great lead-in because it goes through and it basically runs a number of pre-configured tests about the best practices that Veeam has. Now, this is the first version of the best practices analyzer. So I'm fully expecting this to really start, getting a lot of updates as Veeam goes through, adjust their best practices, finds other things that might be problematic that they want to have you check. But it basically just reviews the current Veeam configuration and then generates a nice little report telling you, hey, did you pass or did you not? So the first one, are there any of these security concerns I was talking about? Is your configuration backup configured and working? For those of you who don't know, the configuration backup is basically your entire Veeam configuration. So if anything were to happen to your Veeam server, as long as you have that backup, you can install Veeam again, blank, and then install that configuration, and boom, you're right back there for where you were. So it's sort of a extra way to back up Veeam itself. And then, are your backups protected by immutability? So this has been a huge buzzword again. Immutability is very important. It effectively makes your backups read-only. So your backups, if you were to get impacted by an attacker and someone goes in and tries to delete those backups or even tries to ransomware them if it's local, they won't be able to, because it's a read-only server, or a read-only backup rather. Now, another item I wanted to mention is not only is immutability good, it's sort of the most recent buzzword, But never forget about air gapping your backups either, because air gapping, it's not only read only, it's no read, no write. The backup data is offsite and inaccessible to not only you, but also any potential attackers. So while having immutability is important, maybe backing up to a hardened repository, there is something to be said about the additional level of security for an air gap solution. And this is another thing that's very important that I really want to stress is after you make any changes to your Veeam server, whatever it might be, just rerun the best practice analyzer. See if anything pops up. Every now and then, maybe something will change. Maybe someone will turn a firewall off for some reason and then leave it off and forget. So this is really a good way to make sure on a regular basis that you're up to date and compliant with the best practices that Veeam has dictated. All right. So this is actually something that I recently came across and I wanted to throw in here. And right now, it's a very cool feature, but I think that there is a lot of really good potentiality for this as far as really locking down your environment. So with the release of VMware version 7, ASXi version 7, you can now add a backup tab to your VMK ports. So you can have a dedicated VM kernel port inside of VMware that only handles backup traffic. Now Veeam added support for this. So basically what happens is if you have a dedicated VM kernel port that has this backup tag associated with it, all of your backup data is going to be flowing over that network and not over your production network. So this is very useful for those of you that are part of larger organizations who say, I don't want to back up during the day because there's so much, data. I have to throttle it. It's really causing issues with my users. Now you can ensure that all of that backup traffic is going over a specific port and it's directly integrated with VMware. It also adds for some additional security because effectively all of that data is now being hidden across on the backplane. But what I really, really think is fun, and right now it's currently not possible, but I would expect, and again, not coming from anyone from Veeam, but I would expect Veeam is going to be developing something around this. But my guess is that you'll start seeing basically where you can have your Veeam console completely isolated and everything is going to be going up through this backup VMK port to where you can completely isolate the entire Veeam server, all of your backups, everything, and all of your connection to vSphere is going to be going through this backup VM kernel port. So I would expect there to be a bunch of new updates coming along with that, and I would expect that the best practices is going to be updated, to basically make that a thing to where even if someone gets onto your network, your vSphere network, everything like that, Veeam's no longer going to be talking to them or that network. So it's going to basically go in and provide an extra layer of security. So this is something that is actually going to be very, very huge and just was released with vSphere 7. So I'm imagining in some coming Veeam releases, this is going to be a feature that's going to be coming up. And again, just want to give a shout out to a fellow Veeam Vanguard, Wolfgang Scheer. He wrote up a great how-to on it. Feel free to copy that link and head on over and you can take a look at how it works, how it's done. He has a great write-up just with how to implement it and everything. So go ahead and check that out. Awesome. So there's also the Veeam Mover that was introduced. And basically, it just makes your migrations easy. There's different kinds of repositories now that you have the opportunity to use. And folks are saying, well, I have all of my backup data in this repository. How do I move it all over there? And there wasn't necessarily an easy way to make that happen, but now there is with the vMover. So it just easily migrates data. You can use it to spread data across your server extents, rebalance them. You can migrate data to a hardened repository, which is something that was recently introduced, not in V12, but even still. You can actually use it to take your data from repository that might not be as safe and then move it over to that hardened repository, again, for that additional security. You can move backup copy jobs to object storage. And you can also move data from NTFS to REFS and take advantage of block cloning. So for anyone who is not aware, REFS block cloning it's not deduplication. It's similar in the sense that it's going to be reusing blocks on the file system, but any storage nerd is going to yell at me and curse me and probably say a 4-letter word to me about how deduplication is not the same as block cloning, but it allows you to move, maybe you have some long-term retention, that data from NTFS and move it to REFS and take advantage of that functionality and reduce a lot of the space that you're using. And again, just want to give another shout out to Paolo Valsecchi. I believe I'm saying that right. He wrote a wonderful write-up on this about Vover, how to access it, how to use it. I would encourage everyone to head on over to his blog and take a look, because I read it and I thought it was absolutely a killer read, and just walk through everything on how to use it, how to do it, and it's absolutely wonderful. Awesome. So last but not least, in Veeam version 11, they introduced continuous data protection, which allows you to do Veeam replication on a continuous method versus taking snapshots of servers inside of VMware and sending that data over. You know, you could get RPOs in Veeam probably down to 15 minutes because you have the snapshot overhead of taking it, closing it. But with continuous data protection, that brings it down to seconds. So for those of you that have customers who are maybe part of an organization that really, really need that incredibly low RPO, that's now supported in Veeam with version 11. But with Veeam version 12, you can actually move that over to a Veeam cloud service provider and get that same level of protection. So you can use the great Veeam cloud service provider ecosystem and be able to connect to them, send up their data. It's only supported for VMware at the moment, but everything is replicated inside of vCloud Director, which basically provides vSphere functionality, but from a cloud-based portal. It's continuously replicated, and your RPOs, again, in seconds, not minutes. And it also takes advantage of the Veeam technology for failover, whether it's creating failover plans, and then the access methods that you can do by accessing a virtual firewall. If anyone wants to talk about disaster recovery, I'm a huge disaster recovery nerd, by the way. I won't get into it too much as far as this presentation, but reach out to me. More than happy to have a chat. But it basically allows you to take advantage of these low RPOs. And again, it's meant for your critical workloads. That's a mistake on my side. Paolo did not write a blog post on that. He wrote it on the Veeam. So not only that are those features, but there is much, much more that was introduced in V12. I'm excited for what's coming up inside of the whole Veeam category, the whole Veeam platform. I think there's a lot of great things that are coming up on, I can't really talk about, but again, hopefully we can do this a lot more and we can do it in a physical setting. And I'm really looking forward to meeting all of you who are local in the New York area. We'll hopefully be able to return these to a physical event. And with that, hopefully we'll be able to do an actual true toast. So I've seen some questions jumping around, but I just want to say to everyone, thank you for joining, and we're just going to do a quick cheers. We'll obviously be doing it with coffee because it's a bit early for other beverages, but next time around, hopefully we'll all be doing this in person and we can have a true cheers and clink some glasses and go from there. So before I pass it on to a full Q&A, Kevin, I know you haven't been talking too much, but I just want to say that, Kevin, him and I used to work together at Probax, and he's a very good friend of mine, and I know that I'm going to be leaving the program in good hands with him. And no matter what, I'll try and make it back and be part of the whole ecosystem and everything. So I just want to give a special shout out to you, Kev. Thank you so much for helping me with this and coming up with these ideas. And I know that the program's in good hands, and we'll be having some fun here come next year. So cheers to you, my friend, as well.
Thank you very much, man.
All right, so I've seen some things or a bunch of chats come through, and I haven't been able to go through and answer anything, but maybe either Sophia or Madalena, was there anything that wasn't addressed inside the chat? I know you guys have been responding, but are there any questions, rather than me going through and reviewing, that anyone had that we can maybe answer here?
I actually think, hello everyone, first of all, I actually think we are good. The questions were around VUGs in person in different parts of the US, and everyone wants you to share the slides. So if you could share it in the VUG USA, maybe with a small recap of this call, that would be great. And yes, the recording is going to be available at the VUG USA as well as YouTube.
Awesome. Thank you, Madalena. I appreciate it. For those of you that are here, you know, there's quite a lot of us still. There's 45 attendees, but maybe if there's any other questions, you can post it in chat and or maybe just say raise my hand in chat, and then you can go off mute and you can ask it in person. But again, I wanted to make this not like a typical webinar, but more like a Veeam user group event. So would love to hear from some of you guys. All right, well, I guess there's no questions, but again, feel free to reach out to me, to Kevin. You know, we're part of the Veeam Vanguard forum or the Veeam forums. I have Twitter, I have LinkedIn, just Google my name, you'll probably find me. Google my name plus Veeam and it'll show up. But again, thanks everyone. This was a great little introduction to the program, and I'm really, really looking forward to getting a physical program going again and really interacting with some of you guys, because some of my favorite things is going to these events and just hearing problems from folks or anything and just having those good discussions. It's always great to have a technical discussion over a beer. You seem to figure out some problems. There's been a number of times at these events where, you know, I've talked to an end user who came to me with a problem and said, you know, oh, what about this? And it was just, you know, light bulb goes off and they were able to fix it. And it's really just a great part to be a part of the community. So thank you everyone again, really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing all of you in person come Q1 next year.